Hi, welcome back to Wine Mastery. This is going to be a little bit different in terms of this episode. We are going to be asking the question, how do you get the best out of your wine merchant? Here we have a wine merchant, so I thought he might be able to give us some advice. And we'll take a couple of scenarios. The first scenario, John, I'd like to take is, I've never drunk before. I like the idea of drinking wine, but I've absolutely no idea where to start. So what do I do?
So that would be my ideal customer, because you've made the effort to come through the door, and like you just said there, you admit, I don't know about wine, but I want to know about wine, and you would be like a moldable clay for me. So the first bottle or two which I recommend for you, because we're starting from nothing, we might not always get right or correct, but once you've had that first bottle, you come back and say this was too big, too fruity, too tannic for me, and then I'll hazard a guess onto your second bottle, and then when you come back from that and you say, this was then we've got it. We've got your taste buds, we know what you like. Same as using a sommelier in a restaurant. If you ever see them, use them, because we actually love it. There's nothing nicer than when we found that correct wine and people come in and said, I loved that wine, what have you got this similar? It really appeals to us, because then we think, my job's done.
But if I don't know what I like, and I'm sort of, let's say I'm a young person, so I'm not sort of absolutely cash rich, I don't want to waste my money. I mean, where do I start?
Well, you don't have to waste your money. And again, this is something I would say on my tastings. I've said this before. If a bottle of wine is £5 and you like it, it's a good bottle. That's how simple it is. You don't have to spend 20, 30 quid on a bottle. So again, we'd start from the beginning. We'd start with something probably under a tenner, just to kind of find out your taste buds, find out what kind of stuff you like in, and we'll just move on from there.
And I guess the other thing you could do is, if you've got friends that also want to find about wine, is actually sort of buy a bottle each. And then, so if people were buying a bottle each, I assume we'd be talking, say, a bottle of white, a bottle of red, and a bottle of rosé to see. Yeah,
well, we see that often as well. People come to the shop, and a lot of friends to have like cheese and wine tasting evenings together. Where I've done this many times. A good friend of mine, Dave, and it's a very informal thing where he invites maybe about 10, 12, 15 people to his house, and we all take a bottle or two, and then because of what I do, I'm usually put in charge of saying what tastes like what, and we just don't judge them, but we say, right, that we like this one because of this, and the good fun, because after you've tasted 5 or 6 wines, it touches your soul, doesn't it, and you get a bit merry.
Okay, so the next scenario is, I'm coming to you, and I don't like red wine.
Okay.
I do like white wine. I like sweet white wine, but I feel a little bit sort of conscious always ordering sweet wine. It doesn't sound very sophisticated to me. So I'd like to try and just move to something a little bit drier.
Yeah, well, again, this is what you just mentioned there with this sweet wine and not being sophisticated. What you've got to remember is 20, 30 years ago, it was sweet wine that got people into drinking. The Liebfrau Milch, the Blue Nun. I know it sounds bad, the Black Tower, all that kind of thing. 20, 30 years ago, the supermarkets kind of started introducing these, and that's people's taste buds were ready for that. And back in the day, very few people drank wine, and I must admit the supermarkets did introduce it to the everyday folk. Now everybody drinks wine, but our taste buds have changed, and we've gone on to the drier wines. But it was the sweeter wines that got people really into wine, and there's nothing not sophisticated about it. If that's what you like, that's what you like. It's that simple. Never be put off by people, saying, "Oh, that's sweet wine." It's not. It's whatever you like.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter what they like.
No.
It's what your taste buds like, and that's the important thing. Mm-hmm. But obviously, I think there's a case where I'm going to functions and I'm getting served Sauvignon Blanc, and I'm not particularly. It feels a little bit to me, and so if possible, I'd like to train my palate. Is that possible even to train your palate to get towards that?
Yeah, as we grow older, our taste buds change. We've discussed this before. They die off. They need more stimulation. Personally, when I was, I started at the shop when I was 16, and my taste buds were very young, very tender, and I wasn't into that kind of thing. And I remember my old boss, he called my taste buds when they were perfect, and he used to make me try all sorts of different bits and pieces. Blue cheese, never a fan of that. Now, I love it, the bigger the better. Wines, again, you almost go full circle. I used to like the very light, very easy, the sweet ones, as you said. I didn't even like red wine, and now, again, it's a mood thing, but the more robust, the bigger, the better. I used to go for those, and now I've come full circle and go for more kind of Rioja-esque. As we all know, Rioja's my favourite at the minute, because it's a little bit not simpler, smoother, easier going. It's not as hard work as some of your big Shiraz, from Australia, where they almost hurt. But yeah, it's a natural progression as you get older.
And so if I'm taking, a girl out, I'm sort of relatively young, I'm taking a girl to a restaurant, how do I know what wine to order?
Sorry, John, I was just smiling at you. You make me smile. You don't.
You just find it difficult to remember.
No, it's that when you're taking a girl to a restaurant. I thought, yeah, whatever. No, you don't know what to, and that's why you ask the sommelier. If you've got a sommelier there, ask them, tell them what food you're going for and what kind of stuff you usually do like, and the sommelier will get it like that for you. Or it's trial and error. Even so much as when I go to a restaurant sometimes, I'm looking at the wine list. I mean, some wine lists are just like it's like a booklet, and there's so much on there, and it can be confusing. Again, you don't know what to order. Trial and error, but if you've got a sommelier there, or even just the waiter or waitress, ask them, because they generally have training or a good idea what wine goes with what.
I think that sommelier, when I was younger, asking sommelier, I was always put off, especially if I was taking a girl out for the first or second time.
Second time. Sorry, John.
Second and last. So if I was taking out, I'd be embarrassed to say, we're eating this. What wine would you recommend? By the way, I could only afford £2.50.
No, quite that way.
Yeah, that was all I could afford.
Yeah, but the sommelier, as I've done some wine training courses, and I was okay with them. I learned most of mine on the job doing the trade. But my level, if you look at the actual credentials in the WSET, is just below a sommelier. So I can appreciate, and I know how hard they have worked, and they want that to be recognised. And they do take genuine pleasure out of finding, and they can work to your budget, work to your taste buds. That is their job, and they love doing it.
WSET is
Wine and Spirits Education Trust.
Yeah, just
yeah. Very handy courses actually to go on it just puts it all into black and white for you. It's nice. Good.
Yeah, we're thinking of doing a podcast on that actually, and just the training of that. So there's a little separate thing for people who want to delve a little bit deeper. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've spoken about sort of white wine, it's sweet, not liking Sauvignon Blanc. Is there something between a Sauvignon Blanc and a sweeter wine?
Yeah, you've got. There's a few. One I recommend, and when I do my wine tastings, I always put this on to begin with. Chenin, usually South African Chenin, but Chenin straddles kind of styles and works really well. It doesn't have the acidity in there, but it's still quite clean and fresh. Not quite in the realms of your Chardonnays where they can be too big. Or even so much as the Albarino. I think we've tried a couple of Albarinos. It's a fairly new thing, but it's becoming quite a fashionable thing. Is Albarino a little bit fresher again? Not quite. The thing with the Sauvignon is it can be too grapefruity. The elderflowers in there. It can be too much for you.
Give you that heartburn.
For me, heartburn. Always have a Rene. But some are softer than others and more palatable, not quite as in your face. The New Zealand Sauvignons, they're very popular because they are stereotypical. That's what you're getting.
Yeah, and I guess you could go for something that's sort of taste-wise is a little bit more neutral. You could go for something like Pinot Gris or Pinot Grigio.
Yeah, Pinot Grigio again. Nice. Again, think what these wines do. They take away the acidity.
Yeah.
It's the flavours, but without that acidity, which is appealing.
And if you want to sort of stick more to the sort of sweet side, but not quite as sort of sweet, is Vouvray?
Vouvray, yes.
Vouvray, beg your pardon.
No, I've you know what? I've not tasted Vouvray for ages. You just reminded me about that. Yeah, Vouvray, he's a delicious wine. French, it's one of those I feel about that kind of thing because they can be quite expensive. Whereas if you look at South African wines, they're very good value for money.
Yeah, absolutely. So going on to the reds, I mean, if you mentioned sort of liking like a light red, so something like a Beaujolais, and the other one, if you've heard of it, a Pinot Noir, they're quite light.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to move to something just so not too far away from that, so you're doing it in a step, what sort of grape would you think?
Tempranillo, which is it's famous for being in Rioja. Tempranillo and Grenache, it's the classic blend. But Tempranillo can have that. In fact, I had a tasting Saturday. The Saturday's gone. This Tempranillo I use because it's very light. Like you, on that side of the Pinot Noir, the lighter side, it almost takes a chill because it's not seen any oak. The tannins aren't really in there, so it just slightly ups the game without getting too into the your Shiraz, your Cab Sav, your Merlots. But Merlot's a nice step as well, depending on where you get it from. Again, I'd look at South Africa, nice, soft and gentle in there. It's all trial and error. You just need to get stuck in there.
Yeah, and I guess if you wanted to, again, if you like the sweeter side, then you can get bottled, rather than in a restaurant. We were talking about you sort of drinking at home. You can get bottles like Jam Shed, which are quite sweet.
Yeah.
But as an introduction to red wine, if you like sweet things, you'd probably like that.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, again, we come back to this snobbery involved in the wine world. There's a lot of it there, and if you've followed our videos before, you'll see that we try everything and give it a fair go. And things like your Jammy Ruru, was it Jammy Ruru? Is that what we had?
Yeah,
there was a Jam Shed.
Yeah.
What was the Ruru one?
Oh yeah.
But things like this, which could almost be frowned upon in.
Put a link.
Okay, absolutely. But it can almost be frowned on in the wine world. That is what really gets people into drinking wine. It's palatable, it's easy, it's not overly complex. And just because it is those things doesn't mean it's a bad wine. It's getting people on that ladder and getting them into drinking wine. Yeah,
absolutely. Because a sommelier or a wine expert says this is a good wine, there's no point in drinking it if you don't enjoy it. Even if you're told it's a good wine, well, actually, if you don't enjoy it,
it costs you 50 quid. It doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah, it's like saying Brussels sprouts are really good, but if you don't like them, there's no point in eating them, is there?
Yeah, exactly, John.
Yeah. Okay, well, we hope this has helped. If you want more of these sort of videos, then please put your comments in below. We'll be pleased to try and let us know what questions you have in the wine world, and we'll see if we can answer them for you. So, until the next time, guys, when we'll probably get back to a normal review, we'll see you there. But until then, chin chin.
Chin chin.